So that is who we are and what we do. I know there's tons of people in this room who are members, and thank you, and volunteers, thank you. If you're not, we'd love to have your support. We have a sign-up sheet for our e-newsletter, Ding on the Wing. If you're not getting that, I encourage you to sign up for that as well. But like the little video said, we couldn't do it without support, and lectures like this need support as well. And I'd like to really thank Wayne and Linda Boyd. Raise your hands, Wayne and Linda. You guys are wonderful for sponsoring this lecture, so thank you. And they will also, I'll mention later, but they will also be sponsoring Niki's exhibit that we're going to have later in November. And it is my ultimate hope that we will have a full access to the center by then. So stay healthy, we'll get a herd immunity and we'll move forward, but that'll be an exciting exhibit that we're going to have there. So thank you, Wayne and Linda. We can't do it alone, it takes everybody working together. As you saw, we do a whole multitude of things. Land acquisition is one of the many things we do. Our most recent purchase and acquisition was the Leanne Tout Conservation Tract, 68 acres that would have been huge homes, and now it's preserved and protected. We work to protect the Woodring homestead and other pieces of land that are so vital that if we don't protect what's left, it's going to be even harder. And that's a lot of what the artwork and photographs that Clyde and Niki do to really evoke that sense of wanting to preserve and protect. So thank you for what you do. We are so honored to have Clyde and Niki with us today, along with their daughter Jackie and her husband. Clyde Butcher has been hailed as the next Ansel Adams by Popular Photography magazine, awarded as a humanitarian, and recognized as a conservationist for bringing issues to the forefront of consciousness through his art. His photography transcends political boundaries, challenging us to work together to protect natural places across the globe. The beauty and importance of Butcher's photography quickly earned him widespread recognition, resulting in exhibits in the United States, the National Gallery of Art in Prague, and a request by the United Nations to photograph the mountains of Cuba. Clyde's wife, Niki, is also a photographer who began many years ago before making the move to Florida. Her interest in the arts began when she was a junior in high school, selling her first painting at age 16. She continued her love of art in college, where she majored in fine art. Niki and Clyde married in 1963, and when they moved to Florida, Niki witnessed firsthand the state's large population boom that continues even today, endangering both the environment and its historical structures, which were rapidly disappearing. Niki decided to chronicle these unique Florida scenes, first capturing them on black and white film, and later hand painting. Her unique style, black and white photography, was influenced by the old-fashioned postcard artists. She feels this method evokes the soft and somewhat surreal feeling that she often experiences while traveling around the state. Like I said, her art, many of her pieces will be on full display at the Refuge beginning mid-November and through the end of December. We're excited about that exhibit. The Nature Store also has a bunch of things. I already plugged that. We have a brand new store across the street as well, so take a look over there too. You've got coupons, and I encourage you to do that. But together, you'll see, if you haven't already experienced, and I think we've got total Clyde Butcher groupies in this room, and they and their artwork and photographs truly, you know, tell the story through everybody's eyes, and everybody takes it in different ways. And they have become true advocates for protecting what's left and educating future generations about the importance of conservation and protection. So please join me in welcoming Clyde and Niki Butcher.
Does it work? I think it works. How about that? This is the first time we've done this in a year. So it's remember how to do it?
We may become speechless at times because we'll forget how to do this.
Okay, we're going to start out with a little bit of history. I started out when I was 8 years old, and when I was 10, I moved up to a twin lens reflex. And my folks, we lived in Kansas City, and my dad was moving to work. My dad was going to work on an atomic bomb atomic bomb plants. And so they decided to take me out to a trip out west to see some of the national parks before we that new adventure. And I had fun taking pictures. You can see those old cars, I tell you. I think ours was the last one in line there. It was, I think, 1952. Yeah. Then when I was I went to school in San Luis Obispo in architecture. And when I think it was 62 when we first started dating. I think it was 62. I was dating Niki. Every once in a while we go up to Yosemite with her folks, and I saw Ansel Adams' work, and I said, I'd like to try to do that.
This is what we hope some young person will say about Clyde. I can do that, so that they can carry it on. Because many people call Clyde the Ansel Adams of Florida. And so if some young person catches it and says, well, man, I could do that too, it will only make us proud because it needs to carry on.
But we've got to get them off that color trip. You know, it's really easy to shoot color. I don't think this is, I think, more of an art form. So I was actually emulating Ansel Adams, Edward Weston, and Win Bullock. That was my people that I really enjoyed, with those three main photographers. Then in 1969, I quit architecture and started a business called I Encounter. We had a shop in the furniture mart in LA, Wilshire, La Brea, I think, something like that. And we started out in black and white, but we ended up doing color. Well,
I'll tell you why. And I can see the age group here. You remember the shag carpets that were avocado green? Yeah, the gold for couches and drapes. Well, they match nature really well. And so we were trying to make a living at this, and black and white did not match anything. So he started doing color because it matched people's homes. So it worked out real well too.
Well, you could buy a Moonrise of Hernandez from Ansel Adams in 1971, I think for $75, 16 by 20. Wow. Now you can pick up one for about $100,000. So the concept of photography being art's kind of changed a little bit. But also we ended up doing clocks.
I gotta say this, okay. His color work was gorgeous, and that's why it sold so well. We did real well with it. But he decided he wanted to make more money, and he wanted to become utilitarian. So he took these beautiful photographs and he put a battery-operated clock on it. I went, yuckers. It was horrible because they were so nice. But boy, now how many people have them?
Well, we figured about 1 out of every 10 households had one of our clocks in the United States. We were the largest clock manufacturer in the country. We knew that because we bought all the mechanisms. Citizens and the other guys couldn't. We got all the mechanisms from China, not China, they weren't in the business then, from Japan and Germany. And we had 200 employees. We would ship out a semi-load a day of clocks.
Okay, having 200 employees is stressful. And it was, cracking our marriage up. And we had a sailboat. We went sailing one day, came back, and decided we didn't need our apartment. So we gave it up to one of our employees and didn't leave our boat. From that point on, we raised our children on a sailboat until we moved to Florida.
Well, they got bigger, and then they got smaller boats. We ended up with a 35-foot Coronado with an aft cabin. And then we took a trip down to Mexico, and that was really, I think we spent, what, 2 weeks down there out of 3 months? The rest of it was trying to get there and get back. So we decided to build, I built this little 20-foot flicka, had an aft cabin for the kids, and because we could trailer this. So we built it, this is Newport Beach, we lived it on a mooring. Now, this is 4 of us on a mooring. You can sit on the head and cook. We had, I think the cockpit was 3 feet, I think it was 3 feet deep, because we took the cockpit and used that for the aft cabin.
Okay, we had no refrigeration, no running water. You know, it was very primitive. But we would come home from that big, tense business, and we'd get in a dinghy, and we'd row out to the boat. And that rowing out to the boat, our blood pressure would just go, and it was the most wonderful thing. And we could sit out on the boat and look at the stars at night. It was saved me personally, and it saved our relationship, even though it was a rather difficult way to live. So it was worth it.
Well, you have to, people said, you guys are selling $10 million a year and you live on a boat and a mooring? You guys are crazy. And so anyhow, we decided we wanted to come to Florida. We sold the business, and we packed up the boat and came to Florida. They were called the Asphalt Sailors, because it's really a classical looking boat. It's not your typical trailable boat. So when we came here to Florida, we started doing art shows, art festivals. And on the way to Winter Park, and some of the shows up north from, we were living in Fort Myers, we passed by Tom Gaskins' place called the Cypress Museum. And there was these signs in the road. It was said, DOT made them take the signs off and take them off the road, but anyhow.
I have to tell this. I'm sorry, keep interrupting you. Okay, I love history, and I love old places, and I love people who are creative enough to be funky, and make you look twice when you pass their building or their home, their business. And we'd pass this going back and forth to art festivals, and I'd say, stop, stop, stop. And he'd, no, I'm not going to stop. So Tom had put a sign up, which was like a Burma shave sign. It was in parts. And it said, if your husband won't stop, take off your shoe, hit him over the head. And so I read that sign to Clyde. He said, okay, I'll stop. So he stopped.
And you can see it's a pretty unique place. He was there since 1932, I think. There's Tom.
Yes, he was very well known for his turkey calls, but he also took and would carve notches in cypress knees and let them continue to grow, and the healing would create faces. And he had a little museum where he had all his cypress knees. He had Charles de Gaulle and all kinds of people he had carved and let the healing turn them into sculptures. So it was different.
Yeah, they invited him on the Johnny Carson show, and they called him up and said, "This is it's Tonight Show." Calling, was it called? No, it's called Tonight Show. And he said, "What's the Tonight Show?" "Oh, the Johnny Carson show." "Well, who's Johnny Carson?" He didn't have a television. And so they knew they had to have him there. And he was a riot. We have a video of him on the show, and he outdid Johnny. He's got, I think, 16 patents. Really intelligent guy. So Niki was looking at his stuff, and I was getting bored, and he said, "You know, there's a boardwalk in the back." He saw that I was getting bored, and I said, "Oh, good." So he said, "You just go down this path and you run into the boardwalk." And I ran into the boardwalk, and it was a boardwalk. A boardwalk. But being from California, I didn't want to be in the water, these gators and snakes, so the boardwalk was good.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was nailed to the trees, and it had a thing you could hold on to that was made out of limbs. So if you leaned too hard on it, it would fall. It's not terribly kosher.
But it got me into the woods, and I saw the beauty of the inner parts of Florida. I came back actually the next day and took this picture.
Between the two of us, you may never leave. It's long. I did want to say that we found out Clyde, when he saw the cypress, his favorite forest has always been the redwoods. When he saw the cypress, he had the very same feeling that he got in the redwoods. Years later, we learned that those two trees are related. It's interesting.
Yeah, we found a cypress tree up on Santa Fe, 53 feet in circumference. I think it's bigger than the redwood tree. Yeah. Then also, actually the same week, I met Oscar Thompson, and Oscar was 5th generation Floridian, and he had a camera shop, and I came in there to do something, and he was looking at slides, and I was kind of looking over his shoulder, and I said, "You just got back from Africa?" He said, "No." "Oh, you mean maybe South America?" "No, it's down the street." So I said, "Well, can you take me out there someday?" So he said to Melody, "Okay, you take the shop, I'm taking this character out to the Big Cypress." So he put me in his truck, a 4-wheel drive, and took me out to Big Cypress. And he really, what happened? I missed a shot there. Oh well. Okay.
No, it's not.
That's not Big Cypress. Did I miss it? No, I guess I somehow took it out. Oh well. Okay.
It was a color shot, so never mind.
Maybe probably out of line or something silly. So anyhow, I started photographing Florida, and then the beaches were obviously, I've been photographing the beaches of Hawaii and California, Oregon, and Washington. So I started out photographing the beaches. And we're doing art shows. And you can see there's pictures here from Florida and pictures here from Ohio, Tetons, California. So I was mixing up because I only had a couple of good shots of Florida. So I was really getting involved in Florida, and people were getting excited about Florida. They were saying, "We've never seen this before." People were photographing birds and gators, because you guys are interested in birds out here. Well, they're okay. But I like the place they live. If I can save the place they live and where they can feed, then we'll keep the birds. But if we don't keep the place they live and the things they eat, just like the panther. People ask me, "Are you going to save the panther?" No, you can't save the panther. You have to save where he lives and his food. It's like saying, "Can you save people and get rid of all the grocery stores?" You know, it's the same idea. Then in 1986, I've been thinking about going to black and white, but I was doing very well in art shows, and people doing art in black and white in the art shows were doing really bad. So in June 15th of 1986, our son was killed by a drunk driver. And that was also Father's Day and our anniversary. So it's hard to, sometimes, anyhow, that's another story. So I decided to buy a 8x10 camera. I was using a 5x7 because I wanted more detail. I was going to go to black and white. And everybody thought I was absolutely crazy.
What he did was he escaped after Ted died. He escaped out into the Everglades, and he would go out there and spend days out there with the 8x10 camera shooting black and white film. Now, I'm thinking, I was doing my hand-painted work, and I could make a living, but together we made a good living. And so I thought, well, if he does black and white, it's not going to sell any more than the other artists that do black and white, and his ego will only be able to take that so long. He'll go back to color. And it was phenomenal. His black and white just struck out to everybody. We were shocked. Because it doesn't match anything, right? It doesn't match. And so I think that's a sign of some really good art. You like it whether it matches or not, you know. And so, of course, I'm prejudiced, so, yeah.
I think it matches everything. Well, the first thing they did is they took that beach shot and turned it black and white. That was my kind of decision that I think I'm going to do this. And when I went out photographing, I was photographing things that I thought were important. I had no concept of, because when I was shooting color, I knew what sold. So I would shoot what sold. And in black and white, I shot what I thought was important and what was a nice black and white photograph. And it was amazing. The first show we did as good as we did in color. I mean, a good color show was, what? A good color show I did was like $18,000 in the weekend. And the people who do it black and white would do $300. That's something you really want to chip into that, don't you? Oh, yeah. This is one of the. This actually, I think the first one was the first shot I took. This is like about the second shot, and I thought this was sawgrass because it's the Everglades, right? It's sawgrass. And later I discovered this is all cattails. And that's when I started working with the federal government on the research of fixing up the Everglades. They wanted me to shoot all these invasive species so they could take it to Washington, D.C. and show, look at all this. And I showed them this picture. And I said, now, you think the people in Washington, D.C. would think, oh, that's really terrible looking. I said, no, I think that's one area you want to use science.
So the reason there's so many cattails here is because it was used as farmland. And in order to keep things growing here, they brought in truckloads of manure and laid it down, train loads, excuse me, the train that came down to Everglades City, dropped the sepia. And so what cattails do, which they are important, is they clean water. If water is perpetually dirty, they die, which makes it dirtier, and it continues growing on itself. And so I don't know if this is ever going to get clean because it's really bad.
Yeah, they did an experiment in Everglades National Park. I think it was in 1957. They laid out some fertilizer and marked it with poles. I think it was 20 yards wide and 40 yards long. And up to this day, it's still growing. Now, when I got involved with the water management,
one of the really important parts of this whole Everglades restoration, I mean, we live in Big Cypress, and Everglades National Park is a great place. But when they established the park in 1947, all parks had been uphill from civilization. This was the first park that was downhill. And so now, after, 50 years or 40 years, they figured, oh, we've got to clean up the headwaters. So that's what's so great about this. You can't clean the Everglades without cleaning the headwaters. This is the logical place to start, was up here. Get this clean, then clean Okeechobee, and then clean the conservation area, and then you'll have clean water for the Everglades. So it was just a natural too, but everybody was concentrated on Everglades National Park. For some reason, they didn't realize you had to work at the headwaters. And finally, the concept has come to reality, and it's being fixed. You know, when I first started taking pictures in 1989 there virtually was nothing to photograph. I mean, it was just one big ditch. What are you going to do? But when I came back, I mean, I had all this great foreground, the grasses that were happening. We were out, I think this was in October. It was full of birds. I was amazed how many different varieties were there that weren't there 10 years ago. The bird population was great.
This was cow country.
To create that feeling that we have now, that beautiful restoration, it took a lot of cooperation from farmers, ranchers, residents here to work with conservation and water management and Corps to get all this accomplished. And it was quite a feat to bring people together and be able to do what we've done here. This is one of the most unique places in the world. I mean, there's nothing like this anywhere. One of the things that's important for people to keep in mind, everybody, environmentalists and politicians, you have to have patience and perseverance. If you don't have perseverance, it doesn't work. But you also have to have patience. Those two work together in the conservation world.
So that was a fun project, and it was very refreshing to know that it's working, and cleaning up Kissimmee River is now. Did you show them the one where it shows the other? Yeah, so you can see where the Kissimmee River was a ditch, and it's now a river that overflows and turns into marshland. So yeah, summer. But the thing that really gets me, the really amazing thing about this was, in order for this to take place, they had to, the Corps of Engineers, the South Water Management District, the state, the ranchers, the farmers, the cities along the Kissimmee, and the military Air Force base that's on the Kissimmee and bombing range, all had to come to agreements. None of the, and the environmentalists, don't leave those people. None of those people ever agree with each other. And yet somehow that entire group managed to accomplish taking the Kissimmee River and rerouting it back to its normal flow. It's basically a miracle. And it is one of the top 5 environmental restorations in the world. And hardly any Floridian knows about it, which I find very strange. So it gives me hope and faith that we can make a difference and we can save the earth if we really work hard at it.
Could you imagine if this was the Caloosahatchee? Doing the same thing with the Caloosahatchee River? It have the same effect. South.
Water Management District.
Oh, yeah, well, water management used to take out high school, not grade school, I think it was 6th grade. They would go out on the Kissimmee River, which was this, white thing, and measure the pollutants. And it was parts per million. And now since they've got the restoration done, they can't even measure it anymore. Well, it's still parts per billion, but still quite bad, but nothing like it used to be. And the top of it is the Reedy Creek, which is around Orlando. Orlando is kind of the headwaters of you here. Your water system starts in Orlando. Then it goes down. This is Lake Kissimmee. This is the restoration. You can see that this used to be all cattle. Now, if you think gators are dangerous, what do you do with a 2,000-pound cow with her horns around your camera? You just say, oh, I hope she goes away. So then from there, it goes down the Clydes River. This was taken in February. This is just outside of LaBelle. And, no, Alva. And I'm in the water. In February, the water's not warm. And all of a sudden, I look back, and there's I'm up to about my chest in water. I don't worry about alligators. But I do worry about a big old shrimp boat coming down, putting out an 8-foot wake. I took the camera up, and I mean, I was up to my chin in water. I kept the camera okay though. So there's still on Clydes, there's all kinds of cattle along the river. This is Telegraph Creek, which comes from Babcock Ranch, and that flows into Clydes, which flows into your area. And then the housing along the river. And this is, just to illustrate, this is an old oxbow. It's the only place you can anchor on the river, because the river is like a pipe. It's so smooth, you can't anchor on it. Well, you can anchor on it if there's no wind. But here it is mud, where you can anchor. And this is just, I guess, be west of 75. This is Autobahn Rookery. It's really, I mean, it's something to go into. All that white stuff is, guana. And these roots, they're like 8-10 foot high. I've never seen a rookery this old and this big. It was beautiful. It was like it didn't smell too good, but it was kind of like a cathedral in there. It was really neat. Of course, that goes down to your area. This is Cape Costa, the north side on the pass. Sanibel being on the other side. So this is not a bad spot. I call this a cheap trip to Hawaii. Of course, it's warmer here too. Of course, it's really a rough thing to have to do. This is one of our sailboats we had for Florida. This had a 12-inch draft. That's more like Florida, right? Because there's all kinds of driftwood, along the beaches there from different storms and such. And now, at this point in time, I'm starting to use a digital camera. I couldn't do this with a view camera to get down and get this angle of view.
In 2017, Clyde had a stroke. So having to carry a backpack, an 8x10, and a backpack, and all the gear and everything was, how much does that weigh?
Well, 65 pounds.
Yeah, he was carrying 65 pounds on his back. It just wasn't going to work. So he started playing around with digital. Yes.
I was also carrying an extra 100 pounds on my body. I've lost 100 pounds since my stroke. Of course, I guess you know this is. This is from the tower. Now, if you ever go up the tower in the summertime, you need to sit there and watch a cloud form. And keep going, and eventually it'll explode. It could take a couple, 3 hours. I think we were about 2 hours, 3 hours watching this cloud do its thing. And it's just fascinating to watch the power. How can water float anyhow? I don't figure that out.
Okay, what I do is hand painted black and white. Before there was color, they're my pictures. I don't do his. Before there was color film, people wanted color pictures, they had them painted. And you may have seen some old photographs or even your own photographs that are hand painted. I decided I wanted to do that because when kids got old enough to be in high school and out on their own a lot, I started painting. And while I'm sitting there in the corner of the house, Clyde is out having fun in nature. That just wasn't going to work. So I decided I needed to take up photography. It didn't satisfy me. And when I saw a hand-painted postcard, an old one from Miami, I thought, that's what I want to do, is I want to paint a black and white image and make it the colors and things that I want. And so I started hand painting photographs, and I started doing the art festivals as well. And I started out doing it the way they used to. I used oils and cotton balls and Q-tips. Now I do that as well as using a computer, to hand paint on a computer. So I consider the ones I do oils as originals because each one is individually done. But when you do a piece of art on a computer, that's it. And then you run copies of it. So there is no really original. So, but anyway, that's right. So because I'm having an exhibit here in November, I wanted to come to Santa Bella to do some photography. So Clyde and I did some stuff together. So we're going to show you what we both did. I haven't finished painting, but here's a few. That's the lighthouse, obviously. No, that's not hand painted. That's Clyde's. That's mine. And then, okay. Oh, and then we went to Ralph Woodring's, and many of you may know Ralph, and we had such a great time. I could have spent 3 or 4 days just listening to his stories. It was wonderful. And the numbers, I wondered if the numbers leading up to his house were important, and I thought they were important dates in his life or something. No, they were the weights for his crab pots. So I thought, well, they were important to him, so I took this picture as the one I took of his house. And I really love history, so I do a lot of historic pictures as well. So, go ahead.
I like the idea of relaxing.
Yeah. Right, I love that picture. And then Clyde took a picture similar to this. The next day I went out by myself early in the morning and there was sort of a mist, and I photographed it in black and white and then hand painted it. This was along the road to the lookout tower in that area.
There's a lot of neat things along the road. Sometimes you need to really keep an eye out, Rich, on when you're traveling, other than the birds. There's a lot of neat vegetation happening there in the Ding Darling.
And that's a beach in Sanibel. That's the, what is that called? Where are we? The street the grocery store is on, Bailey's is on. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. This is the Florida Keys, just to let you know. I do paint other areas. And then this is along the Tamiami Trail in Big Cypress. So that just gives you an idea of what I do. Oh, yeah, no. That was the Cypress Dome in Everglades National Park. And we had gotten there before the sun came up. And I don't know if you ever go out when the sun comes up, your eyes adjust to all the different levels of light. But if you photograph it, you can't see it because the dark is dark and the light's light. So I fooled around with it and added the background so you could see the stars, which I saw in the morning. And so it looked a little more dreamy than it actually was, but that was the way it felt to me.
Okay, this is a little movie showing you kind of what I used to do with the 8x10 camera. The things you have to go through to do what we do. It's fun though, but you have to get wet. you have to carry the camera, and the film, and the lenses, and the tripod, and the light meter, and the stopwatch, and the magnifying glass, and the dark cloth. And when I take a photograph, I do not look through the camera. Like, I see a scene, and I say, well, yeah, that's about where I want to, yeah, okay, yeah, that's it. And I set the tripod down, and Niki, being my nurse, because she has to get, it's a little hard to put the camera down in the water there, so she gets everything out for me. This is a really neat camera. It's designed so small that you can leave the lens on it. So it's quick. It's point and shoot. So now she's getting the dark cloth out so I can focus it. You do have to focus the camera. You know, it's a procedure.
And the other thing is, you have to wait. You can't have any movement. And that was one of the best things about large format photography, was you had to sit there and wait. And we all go out into nature, but how often do we just stay in the same spot for 2 hours? And that sometimes is what it took for him to get a picture, was for us to stand there for 2 hours, just waiting.
So you can see it's not like digital. Each shot is, each piece of film is $10 plus processing. Yeah, it's 1001, 1002, you know, it's height. And then there's a sheet on both sides, so normally I take both sides. So now we go through the whole reverse process of putting everything back. You see the mosquitoes there? So there you go. Developing the film. I can't show you the developing part because it has to be in the complete darkness. This is just washing it, getting ready to hang. I've got kind of like soap in there, so the water runs off the film there. So, for some reason, this particular day, I decided to take an 11 by 14 camera. That's a stupid camera. Well, I have one's worse than that.
It said, do you have any pictures of that bigger camera? Okay. He also has a 12 by 20 camera. Now that camera is like taking a television out into the field. It's huge.
I think it weighs more than television. The camera alone is 45 pounds. And the lenses are like 5 pounds. And the film holders are like 25, 30 pounds. And this is where you get nosebleeds in Everglades National Park. Elevations there. There's a 12 by 20. Now, this year, particular year, I think it was 1989, I think. I think it was what was the name of it? What was the name of it? Gordon. It rained, it came back, went back, the tropical depression came back and forth. So this area right now, at this time of year, when I took this picture, was normally would be dry like a sidewalk. But this has so much water that I could canoe out there and bring all this gear, because this gear for this camera is 125 pounds. You know, everything together. So it's easier to do it in a canoe. And there's the photograph. And it's really neat to sometimes to get out there and photograph in the winter when there's no leaves, or not leaves, stuff. Now this year, Everglades had huge amounts of water, just like 1989. And this is mahogany hammock. And I never have seen this thing this wet. So what does that mean for the Caloosahatchee? Might bring some red tide this summer. Yeah. Okay. Now, I've been getting frustrated not getting out in the swamp, so I said I'm going to take my walker and I'm going to get out there. It's heavy though. Got to keep working it out there. You can't wheel it. Well, it's too much grass and mud. You can't. There's no wheeling. But I got the picture. I said, I got to get that spot and take that picture. So I got out there. And so this year we took a lot of shots in January and December, showing all these domes with they're completely bare. I think it's really neat because in the wintertime the trees actually get whiter, and it really makes them really arty. There's Niki in her arty picture. Spread alongside the road. Now, what I have now is since that last time, that was in December, it's January, I bought a regular walker you come out of the hospital with. So it's lighter. So you can get out there farther. Okay, yeah, you can see a lot of my pictures are panoramics. And digitally, this is in a large format camera, you use a real wide angle lens. But with the digital, you can take several shots and put them together in Photoshop and create a panoramic. And this is a Sony, and with a shift lens. So this little movie shows you how it's done. Then I shift it to the center, take a shot. And you shift it again, take another shot.
Bouncing around because
yeah, Niki's moving with the camera. So there's the photograph. Now I'm only about 5 feet away from that tree. And this is a tree. It's on the same boardwalk path, and Hinga Trail. And I'll bet you people walk by this tree every day and they never see it. It's just gorgeous. This is a strangler fig. Okay, Big Cypress Gallery. In 1992, we bought this property and built a gallery, and we figured that we just needed to have a gallery to show our work. And we wanted a place where it was related to our work.
This is, we are 50 miles from the nearest customer on either coast. So, but we're on Highway 41. So it actually has a good traffic pattern. But we never really thought, we thought mostly it would be a wonderful place to live, and we put a gallery up in front and whatever happened, happened. And you know, we worked, we put the pictures together and all in the gallery. But it worked, and now we give, do you have that? The swamp walk?
So this is the front yard. This is one of the prettiest ponds I think you see in the Everglades. Is our parking lot. These are 2 pictures from our parking lot. Tell me that's not a parking lot. We built it, finished it in '93, and we've had interesting people. President Carter was, he always wanted to see my work, and because he was involved with, he was just a, what do you call it, he just does all kinds of stuff. He's built like 100 pieces of furniture. He paints. He's about a year before this, he got this new Canon 16 megabyte camera. He was so excited about this. And I was showing him around the gallery, and that's obviously his wife. And that's just a customer, happened to be in there. He was getting a thrill. And he asked me, why do you use this 8x10 camera and go through 6-minute exposures? And I asked him, well, why did you run for president? He cracked up laughing. Because, you know, anything done well, a lot of work. There's a lot of work to it. And so we took he and his wife on a swamp walk. And he was 80 years old at this point. I think it's just his 80th birthday. I think he just passed it.
He does, their family, every year between Christmas and New Year's, the entire family, and we're talking all the way down to grandchildren and great-grandchildren, get together and do something special. And this year he came out to Big Cypress Gallery and we took him on the whole family on a swamp walk. I think that's just absolutely amazing to have a tradition that takes an entire week for a whole family to enjoy life together. It's wonderful.
It comes and it goes. It's gone now. I have a solution to these things. Take a shotgun to it. Okay. Well, we'll wait until it starts back up.
Got some great stories about the what do you call it?
Secret Service?
Secret Service, thank you. My daughter. Help me.
I know what we're talking about.
Secret Service. Now, the Secret Service had to go out to check out the trail before he came. They were very concerned. Yeah, they came out several times. They were very concerned. They didn't consider this a safe thing for him to do. And so they decided on a real short, a 10-minute walk. But you can't walk anywhere in the swamp for 10 minutes and see anything. So, so there's the president's out in front. Behind him was Clyde, and behind him was his wife. What's her name? Yeah. And so we get to the Y in the road, and Clyde says, well, if you go that way where the Secret Service wants you to go, it'll be short. But if you go the other way, it gets deeper and it's a much more beautiful walk. And he goes, okay, let's go that way. And Clyde says, but the Secret Service wants you to go that way. And he says, oh, they're not my boss. And he just takes off. Well, this Secret Serviceman in front of him had already gone that way. And he turns around and the president isn't anywhere near him. And he just runs across the grass. I'm surprised he didn't fall because it's not even surface. And yeah, and but they had a shotgun in a container, a waterproof container across his front. And there were 4 other Secret Service men scattered throughout the family and one on the tail. And when we were going to go through deeper water, I was toward the back with the families. And there were some little tiny kids. And I said, you may have to lift your son up and carry him through the deep water because it may be over his head. And he said, oh, okay. And I said, but if you can't, maybe the Secret Service can. And they said, oh no, we cannot, they won't, because their main focus is the president. If something happens to him, they're up there with him. They'll leave us. We're just here for your safety, but that doesn't mean if anything happens to him, they're up there. And I didn't fully comprehend until that moment what it was like to have that kind of life. It would just be, oh. Is it done?
No, it's I guess it's a secret how to make this thing work. Oh yeah, we were after we got the walk. We were having lunch with the family. They were all sitting down, and I I was sitting down around it was our old fire pit we had there, and President Carter was sitting there with me, and I think a couple other people were sitting there and we're talking. And I said, well, you know, they're having lunch over there, you know, and oh no, I'm going to wait for my wife. I can't do that. I'm going to wait for her. So she was the boss, I tell you. Well, now it's weird.
Did you realize that you're coming to
The
a
park
national
is,
preserve today? Yeah, Big Cypress National Preserve. It's part of the National Park Service.
To know the swamp, you have to get into the swamp.
Surprise number one, air conditioning in the swamp.
For me, the highlight of any week is a swamp walk with people that want to see the Big Cypress swamp. And they're always in for a treat because they're going to enjoy some portion of the Amazon of Florida. And that's part of what the Big Cypress swamp experience does for you. It forces you to slow down and just take it in real time. I tell people on the swamp walks, we have to do everything out here slowly in order to be safe and have fun.
All right, thank you.
People don't have any idea what Big Cypress is until you walk through it and feel it. You've got to be connected, and doing those swamp walks really connects people. And as we take the people through the swamp walk, we stop. They explain some of the ecosystems, and they try to make everybody be quiet for 5 minutes. It's hard to get people in this civilization quiet for 5 minutes, but it's pretty effective. And all of a sudden, they start breathing into it a little bit more. So all of a sudden you hear all kinds of little animals and crickets and frogs and gators and birds, and it'll all come if you just stay quiet.
So we get together with the Big Cypress National Preserve once a year. I don't know if it's going to be this year or not, but you can check on Clyde's website, where we do a swamp walk. If you've never done it, this would be a great opportunity because all the money for the swamp walk goes to the education department of Big Cypress National Preserve, which the girl you first heard is Lisa, and she's the head of that department. And it's a wonderful experience, and the money goes to a really good cause.
It's normally Halloween weekend, I think, or around that period of time. This is our house that we used to live there for about 20 years, and it's now a vacation rental. We got solar on it with 11,000 watts of solar and 3 Tesla batteries.
You were happy last night, electricity went off. The only one that had heat.
Even the air, with those batteries, even the air conditioner works. It wasn't cheap. It's like being in a IMAX theater. We sit on the porch there, and it's a good place for bird photography. This is a 8 to 1200 millimeter lens for 2 1/4, and I see something interesting happening. I run upstairs, I open the window up, and take a picture. That's my idea of doing bird photography in air conditioning. So all these shots were taken from the porch. That wasn't taken from the porch. In the back swamp, we have lots of orchids. It's this really beautiful place. And the people that, you can see how they enjoy the swamp walk. Now finally, we have a gallery, and our lab is up in Venice, Florida, which is, what was it, 2 hours from here? Like 2 hours. I guess you're probably equal from Venice and Big Cypress, but Venice is where we do all the printing, mounting, and framing. The darkroom is 2,200 square feet. It's a huge darkroom. Yeah. And Neil and Jackie joined us in the year 2000. Start the new millennium, all right. There you go. And Neil is doing the darkroom work with me, and this is our we call it Big Bertha. It's the larger for the 12 by 20, and we want to make large prints and go up to 8 foot wide by 4 foot by 52 inches by 8 foot image. And then the trays are 36 feet long. This is the last one, it's a wash tray. What? Well, no, each tray is 5 foot. This one's 7 foot. Each tray has 10 gallons of chemistry. It says, it's pretty wild. This is our sophisticated drying system. Because these clamps actually move on the rod, because when the print dries, when it gets wet, it increases length by 2 inches. It swells 2 inches. Until when it dries, it shrinks 2 inches. This was my last venture with Oscar. It was in September. We were out looking for ghost orchids, and the swamp apples were falling, and it was, you needed a hard hat. This is the last time I was out with Oscar. He was, I think he died of a heart attack, and it was really a big, my best friend, big blow. And the last shot is one that would have been fun to take. But I'm just trying to remind everybody that the world is round. Everything we do affects everybody in the world. It's hard to imagine we're in a spaceship. You know, this is a spaceship. It's hard to believe that we're just floating out there in the middle of space. So, any questions?
I think everybody was touched and thrilled with your presentation, Clyde.
Thank you.
It is so clear, he says he hopes to inspire some future Clyde butchers, and I think you have. I know you've worked very closely with Wayne and Linda Boyd's grandkids, and people here may feel that way. I don't, but I am inspired by the work that you do. I could never do what you do, and don't even think I could, but your work, and Niki, your work does inspire future conservation stewards and people who care and appreciate. Like you said, it's patience and perseverance is key, and the Everglades needs our help, and it takes everybody working together, and the work that you two are doing is amazing to get that message across through your artwork and through the work that you do with all these different groups, including the Ding Darling Wildlife Society. So thank you for what you do. And we're excited about having Niki's exhibit here in November. And again, thank you to Wayne and Linda Boyd. Thank you to all of you for caring. And there's lots of wonderful things out there if you want to bring some mementos back, all of which supports the refuge. And your coupons are good for the new store location as well. But Clyde and Niki, thank you for everything that you do.
By saving the Everglades, you're saving this island. It's not just the Everglades, it's for you. This is even beyond the world's round. You're downhill.
Absolutely. And right now, it's appropriate that we're having this lecture. It's the Everglades Coalition, of which the Society is supporting as a sponsor as well. We have to be heard, and through your artwork and through your voices, and it takes all of our voices to get that word out, and all of us working together, because we have to persevere, and that patience continues, because it's continually a fight that we have to keep on top of. So again, keep the voices heard, keep active, keep involved, and thanks for caring about our lands and habitat. We wouldn't have the birds if we didn't have the land. And thank you to all of you, and thank you again, Clyde and Niki.